Bu's eyes widened, and he lowered his voice and said to them, "Honorable guest, you can't go with them." Lu Bu and his men were stunned. He had thought that Jeangi was planning to come out and fight the 3 Dharma protectors together with the Paji family. Although the 3 of them were powerful, he had a vague idea of Zhangyi's abilities. As long as Jeangi and the others made a move, with the help of the Paji family's mutants, it wasn't impossible to subdue the 3 of them. But if Jeangi went with them, the nature of the situation would change completely. "Honorable guest, you can't trust them. The so-called exorcism ceremony is nothing more than torture, and they may even kill you." Lu Bu whispered in Zhangyi's ear, desperately signaling him with his eyes. Jeangi smiled slightly and said, "I believe that these 3 are high monks of Buddhism and will not deceive me. Besides, I can't bear to see you guys fight with 3 high monks. If you do that, won't it cause trouble for the Paji family?" Jeangi lowered his voice and said to Lu Bu, "We can't fight here, otherwise it will give Sangha Temple a reason to start a war. When that happens, even the Undertaker will have to intervene because of these 3 monks." Lu Bu was startled and looked at Jeangi with gratitude. He never expected this nobleman to be so considerate of the Paji family. He didn't know that Jeangi simply didn't want to expose his true strength in front of so many people. How could he refuse such a gift? Zangbu chanted, "Amitabha, don't worry, as long as you accept our exorcism ceremony and reform your ways, we will not harm you in the slightest." Jeangi nodded, "Thank you, honorable monks, but I think there are some things we can discuss." The 3 monks sneered inwardly, but agreed with their mouths. Jeangi walked over boldly, with an orange cat sitting on his shoulder, looking harmless. The 3 monks didn't take the cat seriously either. Muchuan put his hands together, and an ice storm instantly surrounded the Westerner. In the blink of an eye, the Westerner disappeared from the spot. Lu Bu looked in the direction they had gone, grateful to Jeangi for his righteousness. He stamped his feet and quickly sent a message to Pajigsan. "Head of the family, something big has happened. The nobleman you brought back has been taken away by the monks of Sangha Temple." Pajigsan was on his way back at that moment. Hearing this, his eyes widened and he burst out laughing. Jeangi followed Muchuan and the other 2 out of Paji's house. Soon, they arrived at another temple in Sarah City, the Great Transmission Temple. Muchuan and the other 2 remained expressionless. They didn't even glance at Jeangi, let alone use any tools on him. In their eyes, Jeangi was powerless to resist them at this moment and could only obediently follow their orders. In fact, they did have that kind of confidence. After all, the 3 of them were top-notch fighters in the entire Sangha Temple. Otherwise, they would not have been qualified to become the most trusted fighters of Yashilangtai Deji. In Tantra, it was different from the mutants in the outside world. It was something that could be called the power of faith, which gave them special blessings. Once they left the snowy plateau, their strength would be greatly reduced, but as long as they were on the territory of the Tantric sect, their power would increase at an unimaginable speed. This was why Sangha Temple, with only a group of monks, was able to suppress the entire southwest region. Jeangi didn't say anything and followed them to the Great Transmission Temple. He also wanted to see what these Tantra monks who were pretending to be gods and ghosts were up to. After bringing Jeangi to the Great Transmission Temple, the 3 of them took him to a huge, empty courtyard at the back. Jeangi glanced around and felt that there seemed to be some kind of special formation under his feet. Although Jeangi was confident, he had never let his guard down. Otherwise, he would not have brought Flower with him, nor would he have kept his everything follows the trail ability activated to observe his surroundings. However, he did not sense any danger, and his spiritual domain's perception of the surrounding 5 kilometers did not allow him to sense the presence of any epsilon-level combat power. Very good. Jeangi smiled inwardly. The 3 monks surrounded Jeangi in the center. Muchuan faced Jeangi, put his hands together, and chanted the Buddha's name. "Amitabha, you have too much evil in your heart. You should put down your sword and become a disciple of Buddha. It's not too late to repent." Jeangi looked at his compassionate face and suddenly asked with a smile, "Put down my sword and become a disciple of Buddha? How do I do that, Grand Master?" Muchuan said indifferently, we of the Tantra sect teach the world and save all beings. If you want to repent, all you need to do is join our tantric sect. I, Muchuan, can shave your head for you." As he spoke, he slowly took a razor from his wide sleeves. Jeangi found it funny. After all this fuss, these people actually wanted him to become a monk? He smiled and asked, "But I still have a wife. I don't want to become a monk so early in life." Muchuan said again, "Amitabha, you have too much evil in you. If you don't become a monk soon, I'm afraid you will really fall into Asura's path. Benefactor, you'd better take refuge in Buddhism while you still can." With that, Muchuan took the razor and walked towards Jeangi. Jeangi smiled and said, "Sorry, I have no intention of becoming a monk." The expressions of the three men changed instantly. The old monk Zangbu pointed at Jeangi angrily and said, "It seems that the evil in you is out of control. Evil spirit, I'll give you one last chance to repent. Join Sangha Temple and repent sincerely, and everything can still be salvaged." Jeangi had already seen through these people's intentions. He had killed Roland and demonstrated his strength. That was why the people from Sangha Temple were trying to recruit him. After all, a captain-level mutant was not easy to train, especially since they believed that Jeangi was a high-level captain-level mutant. Jeangi smiled coldly and asked, "Does that mean we are demons if we don't submit to you?" Ashina scolded him with an angry look on his face. "You killed the guardian of our Tantra, what else could you be but an evil spirit? We're giving you a chance, so seize it, otherwise we'll have to exorcise you." The corners of Zhangyi's mouth curled up slightly. "That's a nice way of putting it. But I'm sorry, you want me to join Tantra? You're not worthy." Zhangyi smiled coldly, "Not to mention you guys, but even if your undertaker came, he wouldn't be qualified." Upon hearing this, all three of their faces turned angry. In the entire southwest region, who would dare to say such treasonous words? To slander the guardian deity of Tantra in front of them was an unforgivable sin. You are indeed possessed by evil and beyond redemption. It seems that today's exorcism ceremony is inevitable. Amitabha, let us save you from your delusion. The old monk Zangbu looked compassionate, but in the next moment, he stretched out his right hand, and in an instant, there was a loud clattering sound. Golden chains flew out from his sleeves and instantly enveloped all the space around Jeangi, wrapping themselves around his body. Without wasting any time, Jeangi took a long, narrow Edelman metal sword from behind his submarine dragon armor. Black flames shot up into the sky, and with just one slash, the thousands of golden chains shattered. Jeangi stood tall in the black flames, clad in black armor and wielding a long sword, truly looking like a demon god who had emerged from hell. Although the three of them were prepared and knew that anyone who could kill Roland would not be weak, the power Jeangi displayed still shocked them a little. However, the power Jeangi displayed still shocked the three of them. Zangbu's mantra chains was a top-level ability that could bind people, yet it couldn't stop Jeangi for even a moment. Flower, who was beside Jeangi, said, "I'll play with them, you take care of the rest." In order to hide his identity, Jeangi had not used his space power, which he was good at. Now, he was fighting with the appearance of a fire-type close combat mutant. But even so, he was not someone that an ordinary Delta could match. Jeangi raised the long sword in his hand, which was burning with black flames. He turned the blade and slowly swept it towards the three people around him. "Today, let me see how much you hypocritical monks are worth." Muchuan's eyes finally burst with fierce intent. "Evil spirit! Don't be so arrogant." The three of them retreated in unison, dodging Zhangyi's sword. Muchuan held a string of prayer beads in both hands, clasped his palms together, and chanted. In the next moment, the sky changed color, and a giant tornado swept across the earth, mixed with violent snow and ice, directly enveloping the area where Jeangi was standing. Zangbu chanted the name of Buddha, and infinite golden light blossomed from behind him, and the image of a Buddha slowly appeared. Clang! Countless golden chains spread out from the Buddha statue, and chains transformed from supernatural powers filled the entire space, locking onto Jeangi in the storm. Faced with these powerful attacks, Jeangi tried for the first time not to use the power of space, but to counterattack relying solely on the power of the void. On the long sword, the power of the void turned into dark flames and burned fiercely. It burned more and more intensely in the huge storm tornado. A snowstorm fell from the sky, connecting the earth, and the entire great transmission temple was instantly torn to pieces. A golden light pierced through the storm and followed its trajectory straight towards Jeangi. The three Dharma protectors worked together in perfect harmony. This was not the first time they had used this method to exterminate heretics who did not obey Tantra. The holy might of heaven was extremely astonishing. Seeing this, the monks and serfs in the distance had already prostrated themselves on the ground, trembling and shouting, "A miracle! The gods and Buddhas have appeared." But suddenly, a black crack appeared in the huge snowstorm. A narrow crack pierced through the sky and the earth, rushing straight down from the sky. It was a black sword beam, and the dark flames cut through the snow and ice tornado and shattered Zangbu's mantra chains. In an instant, all the strange phenomena between heaven and earth disappeared. Only a pile of broken ruins remained. Jeangi stood where he was, surrounded by destruction, but the area around his feet was completely untouched. Seeing this scene, the pupils of Muchuan and the other two suddenly contracted. Impossible! Absolutely impossible! They couldn't believe their eyes. All three of them were Delta-level mutants with extremely high ability indexes, and Muchuan's ability index was as high as 9,800 points. With the three of them working together, it was difficult for anyone other than an Epsilon-level mutant to escape their control. At that moment, Ashina, who had not made a move, suddenly let out a long, distant cry. His body was prostrate on the ground, and a burst of smoke and snow rose up. From the smoke appeared a giant yak several dozen meters tall. It had 8 eyes, and was covered in red and gold, with bulging muscles and mysterious tantra mantras written on its skin. The Yak King stamped its front hooves on the ground, causing the surrounding ground to shake violently, then instantly shatter. The hidden impact caused the ground beneath Zhangyi's feet to break apart. His feet were left empty, and he fell toward the ground. It can control the power of the earth. Jeangi suddenly understood everything. A huge pit appeared directly beneath his feet, and the ground was shattered. Even if he wanted to use it to climb up, he had no chance. Just at that moment, a huge shadow flashed over Zhangyi's head. The giant Yak King charged toward his head and then fell directly down with the force of a mountain crashing down. Oh! Interesting. He had to admit that these three were indeed extraordinary. No wonder they dared to come to the Paji family to capture someone with only 3 people. The 3 of them were very strong and well-rounded in long-range and close-range combat, offense, defense, and control. No matter what kind of opponent they encountered, they had a good way to deal with them. But right now, Jeangi had fallen to the ground and had no place to stand. A person's strength comes from the ground, and if their feet cannot touch the ground, no matter how strong they are, they cannot exert their strength. Naturally, Jeangi had no way to use slash at his opponents. But unfortunately, the person they encountered today was Jeangi. The Yak King fell into the deep pit and was about to crush Jeangi to death. Even if he couldn't crush him to death, Muchuan and Zangbu were quickly coming to his aid. As long as Zangbu's chains bound Jeangi's body, he would lose all his strength to resist. At that time, he would either choose to submit to Sangha Temple or choose death. However, before Muchuan and Zangbu could get close, they saw a dark flame shoot up into the sky. It was like a huge crescent moon tearing apart the sky. Puff! Accompanying the rising black moon was a rain of blood and Ashina's piercing screams. His huge, indestructible body had been slashed in half at the waist. Ashina was cut in half, and his wails were so piercing that Muchuan and Zangbu broke out in a cold sweat. Ashina's body was extremely powerful after becoming a giant, and even cannons were unable to leave a mark on him. He was actually cut in half by that guy. Ashina was not stupid, but he did not expect Jeangi to be able to exert his power in midair. Jeangi leaped up from between Ashina's 2 halves and landed back on the ground, stepping on his body. He looked into the pit and couldn't help but sigh. I don't have enough experience in close combat. If I hadn't used my space power just now, I would have been crushed by him. He was used to fighting with his space power and guns, so suddenly changing his fighting style was a bit uncomfortable. Ashina was a beast-type ability user with extremely tenacious vitality. Even if he was cut in half, he would not die. However, this was not necessarily a blessing, but rather a form of cruelty. Muchuan and Zangbu saw this and were shocked by the person in front of them. Who are you? Zangbu subconsciously took a few steps back, looking at Jeangi in his black armor as if he had seen a devil. Me? Jeangi held a bloody long sword in his right hand, the tip dragging on the ground, dripping with Ashina's blood that was still steaming. He smiled slightly and said, I am a demon. A demon. Muchuan and Zangbu knew that they had to fight to the death. The person in front of them was probably the only one in the entire southwest region who could only be subdued by the Undertaker. But at this moment, they couldn't wait for the Undertaker's support. Muchuan let out a loud shout, and within a radius of several thousand meters, dark clouds gathered in the sky, a storm raged, and thick snow rose from the ground, obscuring their vision. Zangbu once again launched his golden chains. He pressed his hands on the ground, and golden chains shot out from the ground toward Jeangi. But Zhangyi's face remained expressionless. The abilities of these two people were indeed very interesting, but in his eyes, they were like transparent people, and he could see all their moves clearly. He turned the long sword in his hand, and the blade emitted a beautiful dragon's roar in the bitter cold wind. You are too weak. You're no fun at all. With that, Jeangi casually swung his sword forward. The dark power of the void spread out from his palm, flickering and dancing like flames, spreading out silently. It seemed incredibly slow, but in the blink of an eye, it was like a wildfire burning across the fields, with black flames thousands of meters long sweeping across the fan-shaped space in front of them. Hiss, in an instant, the entire world, which had been in turmoil, fell silent. Jeangi killed Muchuan and Zangbu with one sword strike. Now that he had confirmed that the Yaxilangtai family was the enemy, there was no need to hold back. Killing them was the only option. The monks of the Great Transmission Temple and the serfs kneeling on the ground in the distance stared in disbelief. They couldn't believe that the guardian deity of Sangha Temple had been killed by the demon in front of their eyes. Jeangi slowly sheathed his long sword behind his back, then slowly walked away. As for the eyewitnesses at the scene, he didn't even bother to glance at them. The three Dharma protectors had come to find him, and everyone knew about it, so there was no need to kill everyone to cover it up. However, next, they would have to face the wrath of Sangha Temple and the entire Yaxilangtai family. Will the Undertaker take action directly? Jeangi smiled and narrowed his eyes. I'm actually looking forward to it. Sangha Temple. Yaxilangtai Deji told the two family heads that there would be a good show to watch next. Xiaja Gyatso and La Min Oju exchanged glances and vaguely guessed that Deji had sent someone to the Paji family. The two could only drink tea and wait patiently for the show that Deji had promised. Deji had a gentle smile on his face, like a wise man who had attained enlightenment and already had the entire southwest region in the palm of his hand. This time, he was very cautious. In order to achieve his goal, he sent 3 of Sangha Temple's best men. He had to make the heads of the 3 great families understand who was the real king of the southwest region. Anyone who dared to offend Sangha Temple or their Yaxilangtai family would be punished accordingly. As for the person who killed Roland, they would either have to submit to him or die. When that time came, he would bring that person, or his head, to La Min Oju and the others to show them his authority. However, he suddenly thought of Pa Jigsawn's unusual toughness today, and a feeling of unease arose in his heart. But when he thought of the Undertaker meditating in the Temple of Light at this moment, all the uneasiness in his heart instantly dissipated like dust. As long as they had the Undertaker, no one in the southwest region could shake the status of the Yaxilangtai family. Soon after, there was a knock on the door of the Buddhist temple. Deji, La Min Oju, and the others subconsciously looked over. Deji smiled confidently. It looks like my plan has worked. La Min Oju and Xiaja Gyatso felt inexplicably nervous. They guessed what Deji was up to and couldn't help but feel uneasy. Kill the chicken to scare the monkeys. They were the 2 monkeys. "Come in," Deji said indifferently. A monk opened the door and walked in, but his face was pale and his expression panicked. When Deji saw the look on this man's face, a bad feeling rose in his heart. "Akana, what's wrong?" Akana put his hands together and said tremblingly, "Chief monk. It's bad. Muchuan, Zanbu, and Ashina, the 3 guardians of the Great Transmission Temple, have been killed." Clang! The cup in Deji's hand fell to the ground with a loud crash. He stood up in disbelief, his eyes wide as he stared at Akana. "You! What did you say?" Deji even suspected that there was something wrong with his ears. Muchuan, Zanbu, and Ashina were the most powerful monk soldiers under his command. With these 3 working together, there were few in the entire southwest region who could match them. Except for the mysterious Snow Eagle of the Resistance Army, no one who fell into the hands of these 3 had ever escaped unscathed. But this time, not only did the 3 of them fail to complete their mission and humiliate the Paji family, they were actually killed in battle. The expressions on the faces of La Men Oju and Xiaja Gyatso were even more wonderful. They lowered their heads and laughed secretly, unable to contain their joy. Seeing the arrogant Deji suffer such a defeat and knowing that the 3 most powerful warriors of Sangha Temple had been killed, how could they not be happy? Not long ago, Deji was still full of confidence, looking as if everything was under his control. Deji's facial muscles twitched uncontrollably. His large hand clenched the prayer beads in his sleeve. If he hadn't been in front of the 2 clan chiefs, he would have wanted to flip the table in front of him and roar in anger. But in front of outsiders, he had to maintain his image. "Tell me, exactly what happened?" Deji suppressed his rage and stared at Akana with bloodshot eyes. Akana was scared and trembling, and hurriedly told Deji everything he knew. "You mean that the evil demon hidden in the Paji family not only killed Roland, but also killed Muchuan, Zanbu, and Ashina, the 3 guardian deities?" Deji said angrily. "That's right, Chief Monk." Akana knelt on the ground and answered honestly. This time, Xiaja Gyatso and La Men Oju began to feel uneasy. They knew the names of these 4 people, who were renowned masters throughout the entire southwest region. Mutants of this level were extremely rare, even among their own families. But now, Sangha Temple had lost 4 of them at once. This loss was immeasurable. It could be said that it had directly caused a gap in the fighting power of Sangha Temple's Delta level. And this person was from the Paji family. Both of them knew in their hearts that this must be a mercenary hired by Pa Jigsaw from outside. No wonder Pa Jigsaw was so confident today and dared to challenge Deji directly. So he hired reinforcements. I just don't know where this mysterious person came from and what kind of background he has. The 2 thought to themselves. Ha ha ha. Arrogant, truly arrogant. Deji laughed loudly, but his laughter was filled with cold murderous intent. He rubbed the prayer beads in his hand hard and said coldly, "The Paji family is harboring demons. They have lost their faith and betrayed Tantric Buddhism." Deji suddenly turned his head to look at the 2 clan chiefs. "Xiaja, La Men, you both saw what the Paji family did, right? Now, in the name of the chief monk of Sangha Temple, I ask you to mobilize your troops and follow me to fight the Paji family. I believe in your Tantric faith and your loyalty to Sangha Temple and the Undertaker." Deji stared at the 2 of them, his purpose clear. The Paji family had crossed his bottom line this time. This battle had to be fought, otherwise his reputation as Yashi Langtai Deji would plummet. But he wasn't stupid. He wouldn't give the Xiaja and La Men families the opportunity to sit back and watch the battle. He had to get these 2 families involved in the war. This time, Jeangi had killed 4 Sangha Temple guardians, which was indeed an evil act according to the beliefs of Tantra. This gave Deji an excuse to start the war. Xiaja Gyatso and La Men Oju were extremely reluctant, but seeing Deji's current state, if they didn't agree, they would be the first to be eliminated. There was one more thing they weren't sure about: when the interests of Sangha Temple were touched, would the Undertaker intervene? With no other choice, the 2 gritted their teeth and agreed to send troops to join the battle. Jeangi took away the bodies of the 3 men. After all, they were 3 high-level Delta origins, and it would be a shame to let them go to waste. He walked away, and no one dared to stop him. Soon, he disappeared into the vast snow. Soon after, he returned to the Paji family. At this time, Pajigson had already returned home and was sitting in the main hall drinking milk tea while glancing outside the door from time to time. The chief steward Lubu was worried and kept muttering. My original intention was to have someone stop them for a while. Even if they were 3 Dharma protectors, so what? Could they really force their way into our Paji family? But I didn't expect that distinguished guest to take the initiative to leave with them. I couldn't stop him. Lubu's words were meant to free himself from responsibility and tell Pajigson that he couldn't be blamed for this matter. Pajigson ignored him. He knew what Jeangi was up to. When Jeangi killed Roland and the others, he had already shown his fangs. No matter how much the Yashilangtai family held their tongues now, they would never let them off the hook. They could hide for a while, but they couldn't hide forever. What's more, with Jeangi's status, how could he possibly take the Yashilangtai family seriously? Not to mention them, even the powerful Undertaker couldn't force Jeangi to do anything. Although doing so was tantamount to completely breaking ties with the Yashilangtai family, Pajigson didn't think it was a problem. On the contrary, he was delighted. After all, breaking ties was only a matter of time. With the Dharma assembly approaching, everyone knew that the last shred of harmony in the southwest region would soon be gone. If the Yashilangtai family really succeeded in obtaining the legendary treasure of the Demon Kingdom, the Paji family would have no way out. Zhangyi's move showed that he was willing to intervene in the feud between the Paji family and the Yashilangtai family. Of course, the prerequisite was that Jeangi could see the value they could offer. Pajigson ignored Lubu's nagging and kept staring at the door. Suddenly, a black figure appeared at the front gate. It was Jeangi who had returned. The guards at the door were startled. They hadn't noticed anyone approaching, but Jeangi had suddenly appeared in front of them. In other words, if Jeangi wanted to kill someone in the heavily guarded Paji family, it would be as easy as taking candy from a baby. The guards were filled with awe and hurriedly bowed their heads in greeting. Honored guest. They did not know Zhangyi's name, and in front of outsiders, Jeangi and the others referred to each other by codenames such as A, B, C, and D. Therefore, everyone in the mansion referred to Jeangi as distinguished guest. Jeangi nodded, stepped into the courtyard, and Pajigson hurriedly put down the teacup in his hand, quickly put on a flattering smile, and walked over. When Lubu saw that Jeangi was unharmed, he was also speechless. Although he knew that the distinguished guest invited by the head of the family must be extraordinary, he never imagined that he could escape from the hands of the 3 top mutants of Sangha Temple. My distinguished guest, you're back. Pajigson smiled and invited Jeangi into the room, then immediately dismissed everyone, including the head steward Lubu. Only the 2 of them remained in the room, while the others stood guard outside, looking curious. Solange stood guard at the front door with a cold expression, not allowing anyone to approach. After closing the door, Jeangi sat down on a chair. Pajigson couldn't wait to ask, Your Excellency Chaos, what did you do to those people? Jeangi said indifferently, I killed them all. This is no small matter for you. Can you handle it? Zhangyi's face was filled with a mischievous smile. He had killed the guardians of Sangha Temple and lightened Pajigson's burden, but the Paji family would also have to bear the consequences. Pajigson took a deep breath. While he was happy inside, his face became a little more serious. Thank you, he said to Jeangi very seriously. Over the years, Yashilangtai Deji has stolen the position of chief monk of Sangha Temple by relying on the Undertaker. He used his power to turn Sangha Temple into the private property of the Yashilangtai family. They don't even know how many members of my Paji family they killed in the name of monk soldiers. Your Excellency Chaos, you did well to kill them. Pajigson lowered his right hand from his chest and said gratefully, On behalf of the innocent members of my clan who tragically died, I express my gratitude to you. In the southwest region, politics and religion are intertwined, so as long as one controls Sangha Temple, one can kill in the name of gods and Buddhas. For example, this time, Muchuan and the other two came to the Paji family in the name of subduing demons and exorcising evil spirits, and used their combined strength to forcibly take someone away. In a region where religious influence runs deep, the power of religious leaders surpasses even that of the royal authorities. If the royal authorities wanted someone to die, they would have to force them to rebel. But in the southwest region, all you have to do is tell them that this is a test from the gods and Buddhas, and that after death they will ascend to the Pure Land or enjoy endless glory and wealth in the next life, and they will gladly go to their deaths, even smiling as they die. After Yashilangtai Deji took control of Sangha Temple, he used various pretexts to execute those who did not obey him. The Paji family, which had once been the most powerful, was naturally the first to be targeted, and many of its key members were killed. Jeangi took a sip of tea and said lightly, "What do you plan to do next?" "Of course, my people and I can take care of this. But you need to make sure you pay us well." Jeangi rubbed his fingers together. Although the treasures of the Demon Kingdom and the original version of the Legend of King Geezer were what Jeangi wanted most, he didn't mind earning some extra profit. Pajigsan was overwhelmed with gratitude. "Your Excellency Chaos, you must be a bodhisattva sent by heaven to save the snowy plateau. I will do my best to fulfill your request. With your words, I am reassured. However, this time, the Yashilangtai family should not fight us to the end. After all, there is only 1 week left before the Dharma Assembly convenes, and anyone who affects the grand event at this time will be a sinner. But just in case, you only need to help me secretly prevent the Undertaker from taking action." Jeangi nodded. "You can decide these things yourself. I don't like to interfere in other people's family affairs." Each of the 6 major regions had their own circumstances, but one basic principle was that they would not easily interfere in the affairs of other regions. Jeangi only wanted the unique copy and to explore the legendary ruins of the Demon Kingdom, so naturally he would not take the initiative to interfere in local affairs. After Pajigsan finished speaking, he took his leave. Sangha Temple and the Yashilangtai family would not let the matter rest. Even if they did not launch an all-out war, they would make their intentions known. He needed to arrange for his men to be on high alert and gather all important assets and place them in the treasury.